Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am at episode number 4, I believe. 4 or 5, now I'll have to think. I think it is 4. Episode 4 of my mini budget series here on YouTube. So if you have missed out on the previous 3 videos, I will link them all down in the description below. I'm trying to think, this might actually be number 4. Let me go through them and then I'll figure it out. So episode 1 was how to start a budget when you get paid on a weekly basis. Episode 2 was how to start a budget when you get paid on a bi-weekly basis. Episode 3 was the basics of cash envelopes. Episode 4 was the basics of debt snowball. So this is episode 5. Episode 5 is sinking funds explained. So out of all of the budget series topics that I have gone over, this one is my absolute favorite. I love sinking funds. Anybody that has watched my videos before knows that I just absolutely love sinking funds. I think they're so fun and such a brilliant system, honestly, that was created. So we're going to get started here. So the very first thing that you need to do before even being able to set up sinking funds is you need to figure out what your budget is. I have this already done in my budget planner here. So this is my November budget. So what you need to do is you need to write down all of your income amounts for the month, all of your expenses, including debts, bills, expenses, gas, groceries, all of those things. And then whatever money you have left over at the end of the month that is not being taken by these needs, you can either do one of two things. You can put some of that towards a debt snowball or all of it towards a debt snowball if you're working on paying off debt, or you can put some of it towards sinking funds, and I'll explain what sinking funds are here in a moment, or you can do both too. It's completely up to you, but you first need to write down your budget and know your numbers. Know how much you have coming in for the month, how much you have going out, and then what extra money you have, because you need to know what money you have to work with. So after you get all of your budget written out, you know how much money you have to work with, you can then start working with sinking funds. So first I'm going to explain to you guys what sinking funds are. So the first category is, what are they? Sinking funds are basically small little payments or budgets that are irregular. They can also be unexpected. And they can be predictable as well as infrequent. So, irregular, unexpected, predictable, but infrequent. So with irregular, so I'm going to give you guys some examples. Some of the sinking funds that I have set up for my own personal use are car maintenance. This is a really good example of something that is irregular because I pay my registration fees from my car maintenance sinking funds once a year. So it's pretty irregular. It doesn't happen very often, but I know that it is going to happen, so it's predictable, infrequent though. So I guess car maintenance would be more of this category of predictable but infrequent. So one time a year I'm going to pay my car registration and I'm going to use that money that I have set aside in my car maintenance sinking fund. Irregular would be something such as maybe a few times a year you treat yourself to a fancy restaurant or something like that. It's irregular. Unexpected. This is a good one. So such as your savings. You know, if you have $1,000 emergency savings saved up, and something happens, you know, you could use that money because it's going towards something that is unexpected. So these are basically what sinking funds are. They are taking your big budget and then shrinking it down, and then you're giving yourself these little smaller budgets within different categories of items. Next would be when to start sinking funds. So as I just talked about, you need to first write out your budget and know your numbers. So when you can start sinking funds is after a budget is created, and all of your bills, and I mean all, are taken care of. So because of that, you know, you obviously, if you have a car payment and you have some other debts and you have some other bills and some other expenses, and you don't have enough money left over at the end of that, from what your income is to what your bills are, if you don't have enough money left over, you cannot start sinking funds. You need to be able to take care of all of your bills and expenses throughout the month before you can start sinking funds. And you know, I had to do that when I very first started budgeting. I was not able to set sinking funds up right away because I had so many little debt accounts. It was insane, you know, just little ones. $200 owed to this department store and $300 owed to this department store. I just had so many, and the minimum payments that I was making a month were literally consuming all of my income that wasn't going towards bills and expenses and whatnot. So I first had to pay down some of those debts so that I could get them paid off, so that I could free up even $25 a month. And then I started slow. I just kind of took baby steps. I started maybe just 2 sinking funds at the beginning, and then you can add more as more money frees up by the debts that you are paying off. So right now I do the cash envelope system, which you can go back and watch that video on how to do the cash envelope system. So I do the cash envelope system. I do debt snowball for my debt payoff, and I have a video on that as well. So I will link that down below. And then I do sinking funds. So I do all 3 of those things, but I was not able to just immediately start doing all 3. I had to wait on sinking funds because they weren't necessarily something that I had to have. It's just nice to be able to do them so you can plan ahead for, you know, unexpected and predictable things that are going to come up in the future. So you cannot start them until all of your bills are taken care of, and then you have that extra money at the end of the month, which you can then decide to start sinking funds or put some of it towards debt snowball, or do both if you have a little bit of extra money. So once you have figured out that you have your budget written out and you do have some extra money left over at the end of the month that you want to put towards sinking funds, you then have to decide what categories are most important to you to get started. You know, maybe one of them is you want to start getting your nails done every month, but you also know that your car registration is going to be due in 6 months. You kind of have to weigh out the wants, which is the nails, for the needs. And if you're only able to do one at this time, you should probably go with the needs, and not probably, you need to go with the needs, because your car registration has to be paid. You cannot not pay it, or that will end up in you probably getting pulled over for expired tags and then getting fees and tickets, and you don't want that. Whereas nails, I mean, look at mine. They are definitely not done, but it's just not in my budget at this time to be able to go get them nicely done. So maybe you need to paint your nails for a while until you free up some money to do that. So categories. You have 2 different, I guess, sections of categories. So you have your wants and you have your needs. Now, of course, if you only have a little bit of money that you're working with, your needs are going to come before your wants. So some wants that are some examples that I could think of would be like a vacation. A vacation is obviously not a need. Everybody would love to go on vacation, but we don't need to go on a vacation. You know, you can still take some time off work and hang out at your house and just not do anything, but you don't need to go spend money on a fancy vacation. So that would be a want. Another one, like I just mentioned, was hair or getting your nails done. I don't get my nails done. I occasionally paint them, but hair and nails is another want. Another one would be clothing. So yes, we do have to have clothing, but it's not necessarily, you don't need to buy new clothes. You probably have some clothes that will work perfectly fine for the time being, so clothing would be another want. Now I'm going to move over to the needs category. So just like I said with car maintenance is a need. If you have a car, you need to maintain it. You need to get oil changes done. You probably are going to need to pay your registration. Maybe that could also be your car insurance, which you have to have. And then another unexpected part of car maintenance would be, what if all of a sudden one day your alternator goes out or your starter? Those are things that you don't expect to happen, but there's a chance that they would. So that would be another option for a car maintenance sinking fund. So car maintenance is a need. Another need would be medical. If you go to the doctor's office, you are going to need to have money to cover that copay, or you're going to need to have money to pay for the prescriptions that you need. Those sorts of things. Another need would be, trying to think here. Let's say you take, for instance, my kids go to a private Catholic school. Now, I guess I could argue that, or someone could argue that that's more of a want. They don't have to go to a private Catholic school, but for me, I am Catholic, and religion is very important to us. So I guess in my defense, it is a need for us, and the education, the level of education that they get at that school is just next to none. So, but I'm probably going to leave that example out because I just could see people coming in and saying that that's really more of a want. So there are a few different need sinking fund categories for you. So you want to separate, you know, what you have in mind for what you want to do between wants and then needs, and then the next part of that would be how much. So how much money are you going to put into the sinking funds that you decide on? So first you have to figure out what, how much money you have. So let's say I have figured out all of my budget and I know exactly how much money I have at the end of the month, and it is, let's say, $100. So I have $100 left over at the end of the month that I can put towards sinking funds. And the three categories of sinking funds that I want to do are car maintenance, Christmas, and clothing. So next you want to figure out how much you want to achieve in those sinking funds and how much time you have to achieve them in. So let's pretend that for Christmas, so I'm just going to write an example down here. So we are going to pretend that it is January 1st. So I am going to go to my calendar here. It's January 1st, and then you also need to figure out how many paydays you have before you want to be able to use that sinking fund. So I get paid every Friday. So for me, I'm going to take however many weeks there are until Christmas, and let's say I want to have that Christmas sinking fund totally supplied by the end of November. So there's 52 weeks in a year, so let's say I'm going to do 48. So I have 48 paydays until Christmas, and let's say I want to have $500 for my Christmas budget. So, so what you're going to do is you are going to take that $500 that you want to have for your budget, you're going to divide that by however many paydays you have until you need that money, which, like I said, I'm going to do 48. So we're going to divide that by 48 weeks, or paydays essentially. So let's figure out what that comes to. So that is going to be, so we have 500 divided by 48. So $10.42 essentially, but I'm going to round up. So I'm going to do $11 a week is what I would have to pull out to put into my Christmas sinking fund, so that by the time the beginning of December comes around, I have $500 in that sinking fund. And the great thing about sinking funds is, you know, before I started budgeting, it, you know, never failed. I would get to the day of Black Friday, and the only money that I had to buy stuff on Black Friday was, you know, whatever I had left of that paycheck from that particular week. I never planned ahead, I never budgeted, and I wouldn't have very much money allocated for Christmas. So doing it this way, you're taking little increments at a time, which doesn't really hurt you. You know, $11 a week might not hurt you, or maybe you can only do 5, whatever it may be. Taking that small amount of money out every week and planning ahead even a year, almost a year in advance, is now going to let me have $500 by the time Black Friday comes around that I planned ahead, that I don't have to worry about where that money is going to come with, or take it out of my paycheck from that week but then not have money to pay my bills that I need to pay. So that's basically what a sinking fund is. It's a smaller budget allocated for something that you know is going to come up in the future. You might not know when it's going to come up. It might be something unexpected, but that you know might happen eventually. And it might be something infrequent, but at least you know that you're planning for it when it does happen. So that is the really cool thing about sinking funds. I just love knowing that when I go Black Friday Christmas shopping, I'm going to have the money, you know, the amount of money that I want, that I was able to plan for, and I don't have to scramble trying to figure out where it's going to come from. Another example that I'm going to give you guys, I was going to zoom out to show you my sinking funds, but I'll show you at the end. So let's say car maintenance. And so we'll write it down here. So we're going to say car maintenance. And I'm going to say that for car maintenance, I am going to budget, so I need $300 for my car registration, and then I also want to budget an extra $200 for miscellaneous, like oil changes, and then if something happens, like a starter goes out or something like that, or windshield wipers need to be replaced. So I want $500 in my car maintenance sinking fund. That's exactly like Christmas. That's okay, because I'll shorten the time up here. So we're again going to pretend that that it's January 1st. But I am going to, so my birthday is in June, so that is when my tags will be due. So what I want to do is I'm going to count how many paydays there are from now, January 1st, to June, which is when my car registration would be due, and we're going to see how many weeks that is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So there are 23 weeks before I need to have at least 300 of this. But I'm actually going to do that entire amount because I just want to know that I have all that $500 for oil changes and everything saved up by June. So I'm going to take that $500 and I am going to divide that. I'm going to divide that by 23 weeks. And that will tell me how much money I need to take out for car maintenance every week for the car maintenance sinking fund. So we have 500 divided by 23, so that is $21.73, so I'm just going to round up to $22 a week. Now, those are two examples of sinking funds when you know the date that you need it by and you know the amount that you want to have by that date, and to figure it out that way. There's another example here where, let's say I'm going to start a sinking fund for clothing, but I don't really have an exact dollar amount that I want to end up at for clothing. And I also don't really have a date of when I want to have it by. I just know that I want to put aside a little bit of money every week for clothing, for when I do want to go get something. So what I would suggest doing in this situation is figure out all of these ones first. So all the ones that you know the amount of money that you need to have and the time frame that you need to have it by. Once you figure out what those amounts are, and then you want to take the amount of money that you have left, maybe at the end of every week after you do those sinking funds, you have $20. So let's say, okay, I'm going to allocate $10 every week to clothing, and then I also want to allocate $10 every week to eating out. So that will cover the ones that you figure out an exact amount for because you know how much you need to have and you know the date when you need to have it, but it'll also cover the sinking funds that you don't really have an end date, you don't really have a specific amount that you need to work up to, you just want to be adding something into there for when you do need it. So that is sinking funds in a nutshell. Sinking funds to me are extremely fun. I like being able to plan ahead like I already said. So I'm just going to kind of recap this and then I will show you guys my sinking funds. So again, what are they? They're little payments or things like that they can be irregular, they can be unexpected, and then they can be predictable but infrequent. When to start them? You need to start them when you have your budget completely written out and all of your bills are taken care of, every single one. When you have extra money after that point, that's when you can start sinking funds. You then need to decide what categories. Write a list of your wants and write a list of your needs. If you only have a short or a little bit of money that you're working with to start with, work on your needs first, and then once you free up some money by paying debt, then you can add in your wants. The next one would be to see how much money you need to put in every time you get paid. So you can either do it where you know how much money you need and you know the date you need to have it by, so then you kind of figure out what you need to put in every time you get paid, or you have it where you don't know how much you want to have at the end and you don't really have a time frame of when it will end. You just know you want to add something to it. So those are those. Now, the cool thing about sinking funds to me is since they are not like your everyday bills and expenses that you have, so they are not, you know, like your credit card minimum payments or your rent or your mortgage or electricity or phones or anything like that where they have to be paid. Every month you have to pay that or you will pay consequences. Sinking funds are not like that. So if one week you, for some reason, maybe you didn't make as much as you thought you were going to, or something happened and you weren't able to go to work for a few days, so you made less, or maybe you had an unbudgeted expense come up and now that kind of makes you short with how much extra money you normally have, you don't have to put money into sinking funds. You can take a break for a week or a month, and then you can get right back into it. You're not going to have consequences for not putting into sinking funds. So they are extremely flexible, and I think that's one of the great things about them. But if you do stop for a few weeks or whatever, and it's one of these two where you needed to have a certain amount of money by a certain day, you need to then adjust and account for that. So you either need to add in a little bit more the weeks that you did miss until you're kind of caught back up, or you need to shorten your weeks out because then you'll add more in every week until you get to that end date. So that's why I love sinking funds, is they're so flexible, and it's so fun to get to that specific amount, or event such as Christmas, and know that you have all of this money set aside and you don't have to scramble to try to figure out where it's going to come from and then have it affect possibly not being able to pay your actual bills that have to be paid. So I'm going to show you guys my sinking funds that I have. So I keep them in this binder here. This is a Recollections collection binder. I got it at Michael's. And all of my sinking funds I actually hole punched so that I could keep them in here, which I really love having them in this binder. So I'm going to show you guys some of the ones that I have, and I'll kind of show you if it's a need or a want. So car maintenance is first. Car maintenance is a need. I put $10 a week in every week for car maintenance. I'm currently at $100. So all of these envelopes I actually make, and I sell them in my Etsy shop, which I'll list in the description below. You can get them hole punched, you can get them personalized, you can get them with trackers, or you can get them not hole punched in whatever variety you want. So car maintenance is a need. I need to have this. I need to be able to pay my registration when it's due in June. I need to be able to pay for oil changes and all of those things. Christmas is a want. I don't have to buy Christmas gifts, but I want to. It makes me feel good to give people presents, and especially my kids. There is nothing better than watching the joy on your child's face when they're opening a gift that they really, really wanted. It's just priceless. So Christmas fund, or Christmas sinking fund, I have $660 in here. So this is my biggest one. I had been putting $20 in it a week, but I actually jumped up to $100 a week because my budget allows me to do so. Gifts is a want. I do not, again, have to buy gifts, but I want to. So gifts is at $50. I put $10 a week in this one. Household is a need. Household I use to buy like laundry detergent, toilet paper, dish soap, shampoo, conditioner, things like that. So I need to be able to wash clothes. I need toilet paper for obvious reasons. I need dish soap. We have to wash dishes. So this is a need. I put $15 in this one every week. This is a great example of I don't have to have a specific amount in here by any specific day. So I just put $15 a week in here for when I need to have it. And that's at $75. Kids, I guess I could say this would be both a need and a want, or maybe not. It's kind of a little of both, and I'll explain that. So this sinking fund I use for anything relating to my kids. If they want to do a activity and it costs money, it's going to come from here. If they want to go bowling with a friend, it's going to come from here. But I also purchase clothing items for them for here out of this envelope. I also try to get their back to school supplies that they have to have out of this envelope. So this is kind of a need and a want. Some of the items go for wants, some of them go for needs. So as of right now, my kids' envelope has $140 in it, and I put $20 in this one every week. Medical is a need. I need to be able to pay for copays. I need to be able to pay for prescriptions, cold medicine, cough drops. You know, we're getting in a cold and season flu around here, so we need to have that. Medical is at $25, and I put $5 a week in this one. That's another great thing about sinking funds. You don't have to put a ton of money in them. You know, I have ones where this one gets $5, and then I have, such as my Christmas one, where it gets $100 every week. So even the small increments such as $5, it adds up pretty quickly. I have saved $25 here in a month, so it does add up quickly. You don't have to put a ton of money in them. Personal care is a want. This is for my boys' haircuts and my eyebrows waxed, which we don't have to have those things, but this has $30 in it. I put $15 in a week. Rent is not a sinking fund. I just have it in here because it's an expense that I pay with cash, but I like to use a cash envelope for it, so I'm going to skip that one. Savings is a need. You really need to save, especially your $1,000 emergency fund, which I already have saved in my checking account. You need to have that, because if something unexpected happens and you say don't have a cash or a sinking fund for whatever it is, like maybe your washer went out and you now need to buy a brand new washer. You know, I don't have a sinking fund for when my washer breaks, and I definitely don't have enough money in my household envelope to be able to pay for a new washer. So that would be something that you would take from your emergency fund, and then you would stop filling everything, stop your debt snowball, get that emergency fund back up to $1,000, and then continue on saving things. So you really need to have savings. And then this debt snowball is just extra money that I have throughout the week that I put in this envelope that goes towards my extra debt snowball payment. So this is not a sinking fund, it's just something I add to if I have extra money. So those are my sinking funds. So I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sinking funds that I fund every single week. But like I said, if I find that one week I'm just really short on money and I don't really have a lot of extra money to put towards something after paying for my bills, I can not fund some of these or all of them. They're very, very flexible, and that's one thing I love about sinking funds. So like when Christmas comes around, particularly Black Friday here in a few weeks, I'm going to have a large lump sum of money here for my Christmas budget, and that's because I planned ahead. I set aside money every single week religiously so that I am able to have the budget that I need for Christmas, or the budget that I want, not that I need, that I have that for Christmas. So I'm really, really excited about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it was educational. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to ask. You can post them in the comment section down below and I will try to get back to you. I just love, love, love sinking funds. So I was really excited to make this video for my budget series. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, hit your notification bell, and go ahead and check out the past 4 episodes of this mini budget series if you have not yet. I really like doing them. I like being able to teach others things about budgeting that I've learned over the past year since I started budgeting. So I am really excited to share that with you guys, and I just really love helping people. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, week, night, day, whenever you're watching this, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!